The sun was dipping low over the serene lake in Willow Creek, casting a golden sheen across the water, when Ethan Carter's peaceful afternoon turned into a battle that would reshape an entire neighborhood. Ethan, a 38-year-old software engineer fresh off a grueling divorce, had set up a modest two-person tent by his backyard lake. It wasn't for camping, just a quiet spot to sip chamomile tea and lose himself in Dune. His folding chair creaked under him. The tiny camp stove hissed as it warmed his teapot, and the world felt, for once, calm. But in Willow Creek, calm was a luxury nobody got for free. From her pristine colonial across the street, Lillian Harper, the iron-fisted president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association, was watching. At 60, with silver hairstyle to perfection, Lillian carried herself like a general, her confidence rooted in a belief that rules were the glue holding civilization together. She'd lost her first home years ago to a legal oversight, a wound that fueled her obsession with control. Ethan's tent, to her, was a declaration of war. "You cannot camp on residential property," she barked, storming across his lawn like she was leading a SWAT team. Ethan, startled, lowered his book. "It's my backyard, Lillian. I'm just reading." But Lillian was already in full tyrant mode, her eyes zeroing in on the camp stove. "That's an unauthorized structure with an open flame," she snapped, pulling out her phone. Before Ethan could protest, she was on the line with 911, reporting illegal camping and fire hazards with the zeal of a prosecutor. 20 minutes later, two cops, Officers Daniels and Reed, rolled up, their faces betraying familiarity with Lillian's theatrics. They took one look at Ethan, his steaming teacup, and Dune open on his lap, and barely hid their amusement. "Need help packing up your library, sir?" Daniels quipped. His partner chuckled. After confirming Ethan owned the property, they left, one muttering, "Her fourth call this month." Lillian stood there, hands on hips, fuming as they drove off. "I'm protecting this community," she shouted after them, but the cops didn't turn back. The next morning, Ethan found a certified letter in his mailbox, a $200 fine for violating community aesthetics. Staring at the paper, something snapped inside him. For 6 months, he'd kept his head down, avoiding conflict, but Lillian had crossed a line. "Game on," he muttered to his empty kitchen, folding the letter with care. This wasn't just about a tent Anna Marie, it was personal. That evening, George Mason, a retired engineer and Ethan's neighbor, showed up with a lasagna and a glint in his eye. George's son, Caleb, had been ousted from Willow Creek a year earlier over a parking violation, forced to live in George's basement at 24, unable to afford his own place. "Lillian's been running this place like her personal fiefdom," George said, handing Ethan a dusty box. "These are the original HOA documents from the 80s. My dad was on the first board. There's stuff in here she doesn't want anyone to see." Ethan's pulse quickened. George leaned in, voice low. "I can't fight her, but you can." At the next HOA meeting, Lillian wielded her gavel like a scepter, turning the community center into her courtroom. Ethan presented his case: property rights, reasonable use, no harm done, but Lillian interrupted with sharp gavel bangs. "You're disrupting our harmony, Mr. Carter," she declared. It was a performance, not a discussion. Then, surprisingly, board member Clara Evans spoke up. "Lillian, he was reading in his yard. Isn't this a bit much?" Lillian's face reddened. "I won't let this neighborhood collapse like my last one," she snapped, revealing a glimpse of her past trauma. The room fell silent. This wasn't about Ethan's tent, it was about Lillian's fear of chaos. She pushed through a new rule banning temporary structures without 30-day approval, winning a 3-2 vote. "Follow the rules, Mr. Carter," she sneered as the meeting ended. George lingered after, whispering, "Check the 1987 property surveys." My dad said something was off about the roads. That night, Ethan spread the brittle documents across his dining table, coffee fueling his focus. A 1987 plat map stopped him cold. Willow Lane, the neighborhood's only access road, was marked private road, ownership transfer pending. His engineer brain raced. "This road belongs to no one," he said aloud. Cross-referencing online records, he confirmed it. The developer went bankrupt in '88. The city never claimed the road, and for 35 years, everyone assumed it was public. It was a legal goldmine. Ethan called Laura Bennett, a real estate attorney, at 11:30 p.m. "I found something that'll either make me rich or ruin me," he said, sending her the documents. After a long silence, Laura's voice crackled with excitement. "Ethan, you can buy this road. It's abandoned property. A quiet title action could make it yours. She warned him to move fast and stay quiet. Developers were eyeing the lakefront land behind Willow Creek, and Willow Lane was their only access. If Lillian or the city catches wind, you're screwed, Laura said. Lillian, meanwhile, was plotting. After spotting Ethan with Laura, she launched a smear campaign, turning neighbors against him. Mrs. Larson stopped waving. The mailman mentioned legal troubles. Lillian called an emergency board meeting, accusing Ethan of persistent violations and proposing a $4,000 lien on his house for noncompliance and legal fees. Clara objected, but Lillian's allies secured a 3-2 vote. The lien notice arrived 2 days later, locking Ethan's ability to sell or refinance. His hands shook as he called Laura. They've frozen my house. I'm done. Laura's voice was steel. Meet me now. Don't sign anything. The neighborhood buzzed with gossip. George brought bourbon that night, reporting cracks in Lillian's support. Clara's telling people this lien could target anyone. Even Lillian's allies are nervous. Ethan sat in his tent, staring at the lake, tempted to surrender. But George's words echoed. My son asked why I never fought her. I was waiting for the right moment. Ethan decided this was his. Laura worked overnight, crafting a legal counterattack. The HOA overreached, she said, spreading documents in her office. We're suing for improper due process. The pressure was crushing. Ethan's bank called about the lien, and Lillian drove by, glaring at the pink flamingos he'd planted to taunt her. George reported Lillian's frantic calls to her lawyer, her allies wavering. At the 48-hour mark, Clara rallied the board. We're neighbors, not a police state, she said. The vote to remove the lien passed 3-2. Lillian's empire was cracking. At 4:47 p.m. that Friday, Ethan's phone pinged. He owned Willow Lane. Holding the deed outside the courthouse, he felt the weight of his victory. Every resident, including Lillian, now needed his permission to reach their homes. George grinned when Ethan showed him the deed. You flipped her world upside down. The next morning, during Lillian's community cleanup, Ethan strolled up with the deed. As of yesterday, I own Willow Lane, he announced. Lillian's clipboard hit the pavement. Impossible, she stammered, dialing 911. Officers Daniels and Reed arrived, verified the deed, and told the crowd, you're on his property. Lillian's cleanup collapsed in chaos. Ethan signaled a truck, and concrete barriers sealed the road. Cars backed up, neighbors panicked, and Lillian stood frozen, her authority shattered. A week later, Ethan installed an iron gate with cameras and a sign. Willow Lane, private road, access by appointment only. Every evening, Lillian stopped at the gate, glaring at the intercom before requesting entry. Ethan's voice was polite. Good evening, Lillian. Appointment. On Thursday, she broke, sobbing through the speaker. I just wanted to protect everyone. I lost my home once. Ethan felt a pang of sympathy. Come through, he said. Tomorrow, we talk. The next morning, Laura called, barely containing her excitement. Sunrise Resorts wants Willow Lane for a $2.5 million eco-resort. It's the only access to 50 acres of lakefront. Ethan signed the deal in his tent, ensuring residents kept road access. The irony was delicious. Lillian's vendetta had led him to this windfall. That evening, she brought an apple pie, apologizing. You taught me control isn't community, she said, smiling faintly. Ethan set up a community fund with his millions. Lillian stepped down, and George's son, Caleb, moved out, free at last. Ethan's tent stayed by the lake, now with a plaque, small defiance, big change. A $20 tent had sparked a $2.5 million lesson in power, revenge, and redemption. Was Ethan a hero or a villain? Comment, fight, if you'd have battled Lillian, or fold, if you'd have given in.